Hey guys, welcome back to Bombchu. I'm Austin, and today I'll be covering the Humble Monthly Bundle from April 2017. This month's bundle sticks to the format of 8 games, 7 for Steam, one of those debuting with the bundle, and a smaller experimental bundle exclusive game. That means we have a lot to cover, so let's get to it. I'll be giving my first impressions of each game and determining if they're games I'd like to continue playing. This month's exclusive title is Jawns, a 2-player strategy board game. The rules are pretty simple. You can move a piece anywhere on the board as long as the path isn't blocked. You can swap 2 of your neighboring pieces. Numbered tiles can attack other numbered tiles on the same row or column if there are no obstructions. If your numbers are the same, both tiles die. If your number is bigger, the enemy tile dies and you get to keep yours. Blank tiles can only attack and be attacked by other blank tiles. The goal of the game is to take out your opponent's main tile. It feels like a very streamlined version of chess. There's a lot of strategy, but a lot more simplicity. This was definitely made for playing with another person, and I was impressed to see that it already has an online mode. Unfortunately, you can't match up with random people online. You have to enter a lobby code that you would get from someone you know playing the game, so I wasn't able to test out the online mode. The AI gave me a good time though, and seeing the moves it was making against me helped me learn some of the strategy. Eventually I got the equivalent of a checkmate, and it felt really good. There are some other modes you can try out, like Judo, which limits attacks to 1 space away, or Treasure Hunt, where you're supposed to find a hidden square somewhere on the map. I didn't really care for these, but there's a lot of customization you can do to change the game the way you like. I'm not sure if I'll play this a lot on my own, but the next time someone asks me to play chess, I may try to convince them to try Jawns instead. The debut game this month is Slime Song, a 2D platformer in the style of Super Meat Boy. Starting off with this comparison, I was not impressed. Movement is much slower and more floaty, and visuals aren't pleasing. However, as I played more levels, the game started to grow on me. Instead of holding a button to run, you hold a button to allow yourself to pass through things that are green like you. This also slows time, allowing you to adjust your jumps, and it certainly makes the game more forgiving than Super Meat Boy. You also have a dash, which you can use to cover a lot of horizontal distance in an instant, or get a little extra height on a jump. Just like Meat Boy, there are out-of-the-way collectible items on each level, which you can use to buy other characters with different playstyles. You can also use these on cosmetic stuff, like the screen border. There are also alternate exits, though I've only found one so far, and it gave me an arcade coin, which you can use 3 of to buy some fun-looking arcade games. Level design is solid, the music is great, there seems to be a lot of content, and it copies a lot of the right stuff from Super Meat Boy, while also doing some things its own way. I'll be continuing this one. Our next game is Layers of Fear, Masterpiece Edition, a psychological horror game. It controls a lot like Amnesia, where you lock onto doors and drawers and move them in a direction to open them. Also like Amnesia, it starts off slow and pretty tame, and the scariest thing is that some of the rooms are dark. Unlike Amnesia, it does not take long for the game to really get started, and when it starts, boy does it go fast. Nothing about the story is explicitly stated, but based on what I've found around the house, I believe you play as its owner, a painter. You have a wife, who doesn't seem to be around, and the 2 of you don't seem to have spoken directly in some time, writing notes to each other around the house for your only communication. I also think you have a prosthetic leg, as I found a note mentioning one, and you walk with a limp. You also appear to be a raging alcoholic. At some point you had a child, but he or she doesn't seem to be around either. After you uncover your unfinished painting, the house stops playing by the rules. Doorways change where they lead to, and assuming you find a familiar room, things are constantly changing. I had watched some footage of this online a few months ago and was unimpressed. Oh wow, the paintings melt, the layout changes, so scary. Playing it myself was quite a different experience. A lot of the horror relies on jump scares, but they're still well designed and executed. Something in a room will catch your eye, and you'll walk up to get a better look. Maybe you see some text written that you need to be closer to read, and BAM! Still, not all the horror comes from jump scares. At one point I found a doll stuck to a painting. Looking at it closely dropped me into the basement, where I couldn't see very well. Looking around, I found a small light source and walked over. There was a painting against the wall next to me of a man that I could barely see. I noticed another slightly lit area and walked over, finding a light switch. Turning the light on, I instantly felt more comfortable, and turned around only to see the painting was now in the middle of the room. Some craziness happened, but eventually ended, and I walked up the stairs out of the basement, only to find a room with that same doll hung up on deer antlers, and the painting of that man. Two things that had been triggers for bad mojo, and they didn't do anything, they just gave me a nice sense of dread. The designers nailed the atmosphere, and do a good job of keeping you moving forward instead of having to backtrack. After the huge disappointment of Husk in the February bundle, this is awesome to see here. I'll definitely be playing further whenever I get the courage. Next up is Black Mesa, a fan-made reimagining of Half-Life 1. Alright, confession time. I haven't played the original Half-Life. It's been on my to-do list for some time now, but when I heard Black Mesa was coming out, I figured I would wait for that to be finished so I could play something a little more up-to-date. The game starts off with a train ride during opening credits, much like Half-Life 2. There are some interesting sights to see on the way, and it almost does a decent job at building up atmosphere. Unfortunately, this train ride is about 10 minutes long. Anytime the train stops and you think it's over and you're about to start playing, it lowers down onto another track and the ride continues. And all the atmosphere it tries to build is just farted out the window each time a loading screen appears, which happens not once, not twice, but 3 times during the opening credits. Your credits are too slow, your train ride is too long, or your game engine is too old. Yes, Black Mesa uses the Source engine. On the one hand, it does give the game a feeling of authenticity and preserves the physics touted by the series. On the other hand, it's a 13-year-old engine, and long, abrupt loading screens every few minutes are obnoxious. That aside, the game becomes much more enjoyable once you're free to walk around. The people walking around having dumb conversations, the hallways that lead down paths you're not allowed to go yet, the colorful light shows. This feels like an ambitious late 90s shooter, but it has that layer of polish that keeps it from feeling old. For a good chunk of time after you tear a hole in the universe and turn all your coworkers into zombies, you have no weapon and must depend on an NPC to fight for you. It's a slightly tense section because a lot of times, he just doesn't really feel like shooting. It makes that moment when you find the crowbar all that much sweeter. Overall, I'm a bit disappointed with Black Mesa. I like the game, I like the story and characters so far. There are just a few blemishes that keep it from being the modern reimagining it could be. Still, I like it enough to continue on. Game 5 is The Witness. I've played this one before, and I'll be upfront. This game perfectly straddles the line between love and hatred for me. I love puzzle games, and I loved creator Jonathan Blow's previous title, Braid, so I thought this was going to be a slam dunk. The visuals are gorgeous and invite exploration, but puzzles are obtuse, inorganic, and often discouraging. You're left to figure out new puzzle mechanics on your own, and sometimes this works well with a series of puzzles centered around a new mechanic building in difficulty. Then you'll run into a complex puzzle that seems logically impossible to solve just next door. But then you find puzzles in the environment itself, and solving them is intensely satisfying. But these lead to more questions than answers. The Witness demands a lot of you. You have to be good at learning puzzle mechanics, pay close attention to your environment for hidden walkways or puzzles, remember the layout of the island and spots you aren't able to complete yet, and you have to have a strong will to push past when the game throws you into a wall. I wasn't looking forward to playing it again for this review, but I really did get a lot of joy returning to the island. And a lot of frustration. If you like puzzle games, this is definitely worth a try, but if you're hoping to play to completion, you'll want to bring an iron will or a guide, which I feel defeats the fun of the game anyways. After getting footage for this review, I deleted the game planning to leave it alone, but while writing this script, I've reinstalled it. I'm extremely torn on this game, and I guess that has to mean something. This leads us to Kingdom: New Lands, a side-scrolling pixel art strategy game. You play as the king, led by a ghost of the king before you to create and grow your kingdom. Gameplay is really simple and straightforward. Stand in front of a structure you want to build or upgrade, or an obstacle you want cleared, and a number of circles will appear above it indicating how many coins you need. Hold A to use your coins, and one of your builders will come take care of it. Don't have any builders? Drop a coin in front of someone to make them join your kingdom. And build a hammer if you want them to be a builder, or a bow if you want them to be a defender. Defenders will fight off enemies that try to raid your kingdom, as well as hunt animals to give you money. However, they are often pretty bad shots, and sometimes they wouldn't shoot anything at all. I also had trouble figuring out what conditions I met to allow further upgrades to parts of my camp. And I have no idea what this thing did at all. Still, it was a fun game, and relaxing whenever the enemies weren't around. But man, when they were a pain. My guards would often guard the wrong side, or shoot so slow and inaccurately that they didn't stand a chance. As the king, any money you haven't spent is considered health. Get attacked and you'll drop coins that the enemies steal. Get hit with no coins left and your crown is taken, leaving you with a game over. Start again from scratch. The visuals are pleasing, especially that water, and knowing more now, I think I could do better next time. I'll be playing this one again. Next is Event Zero, a sci-fi first-person text adventure game. You start off picking elements of your backstory and find out that you're an astronaut heading to a deep space mission. Unfortunately, your station is destroyed, and as far as you can tell, you're the only survivor floating through space in an escape pod. You end up encountering a ship and come aboard, only to find an AI called Kaizen that tells you no one is aboard. And here's where things get interesting. You freely type to Kaizen. Interacting with the AI is a real treat. Sometimes you're just giving commands, but with how much I was talking to it and the questions it was asking me, I felt compelled to say please and thank you along with those commands. Sometimes you'll make a request and it won't comply right away. Or in one case, I asked it to open a door, and it told me it would open the door, but didn't want me to go inside until it had prepped the room. Looking in from the outside, the room didn't really look like it needed prepping, but I couldn't help but oblige the request. The graphics and presentation are nice, and the puzzles are interesting. The controls are a bit strange. You hold left click to move forward and right click to move backward. This seemed dumb at first, but you really spend a lot of time typing to the computer, so it started to make more sense as I played. I really like this one. I plan to finish it. Our final game is Tumblestone, an action puzzle game. Gameplay is really simple. There are colored blocks above, and you're running around below. You can grab any block directly above you, and you're supposed to grab 3 of the same color. You can't put them down, and if you grab a different color, you lose. You must strategically free the right blocks to prevent running out of moves. Single player mode has a ton of levels to play through, which are fun on their own, but the multiplayer is where I had the most fun. Don't have any friends who own the game? It gives you trial keys to hand out to friends so that they can try out the multiplayer with you. This was an awesome inclusion, and I'd love to see it in more games. As for the multiplayer itself, there are 3 modes. Battle, where clearing blocks adds lines to your opponent's board. Tug of War, which has several mini-puzzles. Clearing a mini-puzzle pushes your opponent's board down further, while giving you more room to breathe. And the last is Puzzle Race, which is just a race to finish the puzzle faster than your opponent. This mode is okay, but the other 2 really put it to shame. Visuals and music are simple, but for a game like this, they really don't need to be mind-blowing. I'll certainly continue the story, and hopefully I can convince some friends to pick it up in the future. So overall, how was this bundle? Man, I liked every game in this bundle, even The Witness, despite also hating it. There was a solid variety, and mostly from genres I'm really into. Each game was well rated, and I'm not sure any of them could be considered questionable picks. I also only had 1 repeat with The Witness. So how much bang for your buck was there? To total everything up, paying full price, these would all rack up a cost of about $158. Getting all these at their lowest sale price would cost about $88. Going either way, this is really high value for a monthly bundle. I liked this bundle a lot, and this gave me a lot to play while we wait for May's games. Next month's bundle is changing things up with 2 early access games, Inside and Dirt Rally. I can't wait to see what else is in there. Catch you next time.